Yeah, we are on.
Yes, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So, as we all know, we are here to witness the webinar presentation of three young scholars associated with DRaS-Praghna Research Writing Program. I am Nimi Mariam Verghese, an intern with the DRaS-Praghna program. Before beginning the event, it's my honor to welcome the esteemed mentors to this event. Let me proudly welcome Group Captain Dr. Srinivasan, the Editor-in-Chief of Electronic Journal of Social and Strategic Studies. Welcome, sir. Let me also welcome Commander J.K. Naya, Commander Dr. Ashok Dua, and Group Captain Arthsastra sir to this event. Today, we also have with us Sri Santosh Chandra, DIG, Indian Railways Protection Force Service. We welcome the distinguished members to this event. This evening, we'll be having three presentations. The first paper will be presented by Avani DRaS, and she will be presenting on the relevance of Kautilya's Arthsastra concerning contemporary hybrid warfare. We also have a paper on the influence of soft power in shaping diplomacy and foreign policy by Arsheeta Barua. We also have a paper titled Examining the Electoral Dynamics, a comparative analysis of national party performance in the past three Indian general elections by Ashmita Mitra. Before I invite them to present their papers, let me familiarize everyone with the program. We will commence with an introductory address by Group Captain Dr. Srinivasan, followed by the presentation of the young scholars. After that, we have a short Q&A session. Commander J.K. Naya will then give a small note on the DRaS-Praghna Research Writing Program. This will be followed by a mentor's perspective by Group Captain Arthsastra sir and Commander Dr. Ashok Dua sir. We will end the program with a vote of thanks by Yashodan Mirvankar. Audience, please note a few things. Please keep your mics muted till the question and answer session. Please raise your hands before asking the questions. Please specify your name, designation, and the name of the young scholar that you're directing your questions to. You can also ask the question in the chat box, which I will be reading out during the question and answer session. Participants, please note that you're only allotted 20 minutes to present the paper. To begin the event, I now invite Dr. Srinivasan sir to deliver the introductory note.
Thank you, Nimi, for the warm welcome. I am always happy because we have such a distinguished group of mentors in this DRaS-Praghna Research Writing Program. And in the last 2.5 years, we have been able to groom, say, if you want the exact numbers, 29 youngsters who have worked on their individual research papers based on their own topics. And in the process of mentoring them, we have learned a lot. This interactive forum is a matter of, I will say, privilege and pride for all the mentors who are associated. And we continue to look forward to having more and more youngsters joining this program. Having said that, coming to today's presentations, though I will not speak about them extensively because these youngsters, it is their day, they have their place in the sun today. Okay, so they will be explaining their research. But just to give a brief this thing, we have Avani DRaS, who has very meticulously undertaken research into Arthsastra and the concept of hybrid war in contemporary military strategy. We are all aware that for quite some time now, India has been talking about the need to explore Indian knowledge system. But merely exploring the Indian knowledge system is not good enough, because it will only tell us that we belong to a great culture. We have 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 years of inheritance. We have such rich, treatises on every aspect of human life, right from spirituality to medicine to astrology to astronomy to mathematics to everything. We are all aware of this. But exploring Indian knowledge system becomes important because today India is definitely poised to become a global power. We are already a regional power. We have our own privileged, platform in the high pedestal of the international community. We have international respect. We need to enhance our knowledge so that we reach the very top. The whole talk, even you are all aware, those of you who are in academics are aware that even the UGC has come out with the necessity for universities and colleges to take up uh, teaching as well as research in Indian knowledge systems. And what we precisely mean by teaching and researching into Indian knowledge system, the way I understand it, I'm sure that is what the UGC also says, is not only to explore what was written in the past, but to see whether those principles, concepts, strategies, whatever they contain, can be applied to the contemporary world and whether they can help us to evolve into the major power or a dominant power or a global power that we want to. Because it is only through knowledge that we will reach wherever we want to reach. So exploration of that IKS, Indian knowledge system, is a very much contemporary theme. And I am especially happy to say that our army has taken the a painstaking research, I'll put it that way, okay, to take the concept of hybrid warfare from the contemporary strategic thought, take Arthsastra and see whether the concepts that he is talking about, Kautilya is talking about, and whether what we call as uh, the hybrid warfare, do they match? Are there lessons from Arthashastra that we can carry forward, we can explore? It's a wonderful research that she has done, and I am particularly very pleased with the kind of work that she has done. So are all the other mentors. Coming to Arshita, Arshita is again, Arshita and Ashmita, I must tell you that they both are students doing bachelor's degree in Christ. And to be honest, in this program, we have no distinction. So long as they are students, whether they are bachelor students or they are PhD scholars, okay, we welcome all to this program. But whenever we take bachelor students, one question does arise in our own minds. I'm talking about the mentors' minds. Will this child be able to cope up with the rigors of research? Because you need a lot of background knowledge. You need to read. And we all know what research is all about. And I'm very happy again to say, on behalf of all the other mentors, that both Arshita and Ashmita have taken up unique topics, very unique topics. One is exploring soft power and foreign policy and diplomacy. The other one is exploring national politics. In fact, it's almost like a comparative study, a study on comparative politics. I'll put it that way. Okay. And both of them not only rose up to the challenge, we expected that they will, wind up by a short article on those topics, but they ended up producing a substantial research paper, full-fledged research paper, putting in their mind, putting in their efforts, reading up, and coping up with all our criticisms and encouragements, obviously. Okay, so both these children also have done exceptionally well in their papers, and I should not be holding you from listening to their, I will say, learned thoughts, because they have done substantial research. I'm sure they will be able to present it in that manner. Okay, so saying, I wish all the three, Avani, Ashmita, and Arshita, the very best in their presentations. Mimi, you can continue the program.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Srinivasan, sir, for such an enriching introductory note. Now, let me welcome Avani DRaS to present her paper.
Good evening to everybody present here. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I'll share my screen. Sir, is this visible? I hope this is visible to everybody. Again, good evening to everyone present. So my topic is relevance of Kautilya's Arthashastra concerning contemporary hybrid warfare. My objective of choosing this topic was to investigate if it is possible to establish a link between Arthashastra and the contemporary concept of hybrid warfare. And also, this gave me an opportunity to seize, gave me a, I'm sorry, uh, I wanted to seize an opportunity to enhance the relationship between academics and culture. So this was my reason for choosing the topic. The research method used for this study is completely based on qualitative methods where I utilize secondary sources of information. And this analysis is an outcome of many journals, online articles, book chapters, and research papers. Moving on to the research questions, the following research questions were drawn to be able to reach to an analytical conclusion. The first question suggesting what does the concept of hybrid warfare mean. The second one is to understand the approaches outlined in Arthashastra concerning warfare and strategy. And the third question focuses on the comparative analysis to understand Arthashastra, but through the lens of hybrid warfare. So, firstly, let's try and understand the paradigm of hybrid warfare by taking a look at one of the definitions. So, the before I start, the concept is still evolving and the literature is quite ambiguous. Now, Frank Hoffman, a retired Marine and an award-winning author, he has been said to have been the first person to use the term hybrid warfare. In his seminal book titled "Conflict in the 21st Century: Rise of Hybrid Warfare," he defines hybrid warfare as the blurring of modes of war, the blurring of who fights, and what technologies to bear, producing a wide range of variety and complexity that we call hybrid warfare. Now, this definition suggests three things. The first, that the modes of warfare are mixed. Secondly, that the combatants are diverse. And the third point that he is suggesting is that the technology plays a multifaceted role. Now, to sum up, hybrid warfare is a blend or fusion or interplay of your conventional and unconventional or military and non-military methods to achieve the desired outcome. Now, after analyzing the literature available uh, and the other several definitions of hybrid warfare, certain elements can be drawn, such as psychological operations or your clandestine operations, subversive political activities, economic warfare, and blurring lines of warfare, etc. Now, I've tried to compare the elements of hybrid warfare to those in Arthashastra. So there are verses or sutras which have stark resemblance to the elements that I have drawn out. Now, the first one, for instance, suggests, so there's a sutra in book 7, chapter 13, which says that it is imperative to attack the enemy, strike the enemy again and again, even during times of negotiations and diplomacy. Now, this has a stark resemblance to blurring lines of warfare, where it is difficult to make out the difference between the zone of conflict and the zone of peace. Now, we're talking about economic warfare. There is a concept of Lobha Vijayan. So, Lobha Vijayan is an economic conquest where the conqueror gets satisfied by acquiring the economic assets. So, this resembles economic warfare. Similarly, regarding psychological operations, there is the concept of Kuta Yuddha, where silent maneuvers are taken place in order to exploit the vulnerabilities and achieve the desired outcome or gain a strategic autonomy. Similarly, regarding subversive political acts, there is a concept of bheda, which literally translates to sowing discord or disuniting the enemy internally. Um, and regarding clandestine operations, there is the concept of Gudha Yuddha, which is silent warfare, And Kautilya suggests activities like employing female operatives or poisoning the wine or defiling water resources to internally destroy the enemy. Um, Moving on to Arthshastra's philosophy on war, we'll discuss the principle that he has postulated. Firstly, he's mentioned certain kinds of war. He suggests in one of the sutras that Prakasha Yuddham Ninadishte Dedo Kathe cha Nikramaha Nibhishanamiskandaha Pramadavya Siddhim Ekatra Tyagaghato cha Kutayuddhasya Madaka Yoga Gutopajapatham Tushnim Yuddhasya Kakshana. So we found three words here: Prakasha Yuddha, Kuta Yuddha, and Guda Yuddha. Prakasha Yuddha is your open warfare. Um, which is your traditional battle between two forces at a decided place or time. Um, Kuta Yuddha is concealed warfare. So psychological warfare and guerrilla warfare are central components to Kuta Yuddha. He uses the term Upajapa, which refers to the art of using concealed warfare. Now, Guda Yuddha is clandestine warfare or silent warfare. Now, this is majorly characterized by your covert and overt operations. He dedicates an entire section on Mantra Yuddha, which is your war by council. Now, this involves astute use of diplomacy or shrewd use of diplomatic maneuvers to attain triumph. Like Roger Boyce mentions in his paper that for Kautilya, diplomacy was just another weapon used in prolonged warfare, which was always either occurring or being planned for. Moving on to the types of conquest that Kautilya suggests. Now, the reason why I've included study of conquest in this is because history is proof that states have always desired to conquer and expand their territory as their ultimate goal in conflicts. And Kautilya advocates that world conquest is a true foundation for world peace. Now, he mentions three types of conquerors, which is your Dharma Vijayin, Lobha Vijayin, and Asura Vijayin. Dharma Vijayin is essentially a righteous conqueror who seeks to conquest primarily for honor and prestige. So he gets satisfied by the submission of the king that he wants to conquer, and under this principle, surrender does not detonate a negative connotation. It signifies a respectful acknowledgement of power in a manner that avoids bloodshed and loss of violence. Now, Lobha Vijayin translates to your greedy conqueror who is satisfied only by acquiring economic assets of the territory. Now, this might include your land, wealth, money, the jewelry, goods, etc. The third concept that he suggested is of Asura Vijayan. Asura Vijayan is a demonic conqueror who is looking for total and absolute power, but through ruthless means. So there are no rules of war in this conquest, and the conqueror will not stop until he has achieved everything. Now, moving on to the six gunas. As we talked up in the earlier slide, that the basic tenet of hybrid warfare is tactics and policies vary according to the circumstances. So, which is why the blurring lines of warfare and a blend and fusion and interplay of the full spectrum capabilities that are available at a nation's disposal. So Kautilya favors this particular 6-foot classification for the same reason, and also advises that these gunas can be applied simultaneously for successful result. And all these tenets can be reflected in this policy of Shat Gunya or 6 gunas. Now, these also can be called as war tactics because of its resemblance of the art of organizing or employing fighting tactics in combat as well as non-combat zones. So the first one is Sandhi. Now, Kautilya thought that promises or agreements were strategies. So certain agreements, he mentioned certain agreements like Paripanita Sandhi or Aparipanita Sandhi. So these are agreements with stipulations or without stipulations, and the aim is to outsmart or to deceive the enemy in order to allow the Vijigishu meaning your king, to gain power, but all this at the expense of the rival. So In addition to these, there are more such speculative pacts that he has mentioned extensively, where the aim is to outscore the opponent. So in conclusion, the purpose of Samdhi is to deceive or camouflage the real intention by giving it the face of a friendly venture. Moving on to Vigraha. Vigraha is the policy of hostility. Now, this policy has been found to be a very useful tool for both your defensive and offensive purposes when you're dealing with potential threats. Specifically, when counterattacks are deemed to be effective, Kautilya suggests using the policy of Vigraha. Moving on to Yana. Yana is an acknowledgement of growing constituent elements of the state and the need to increase and to deploy resources in preparation of war. So considering the all of this, considering the increase in capabilities. Moving on to Asana. Asana is basically the policy of remaining quiet. The literal translation is that. So this policy, through the lens of modern conflict, can be looked at as a strategic approach that entails withstanding the adversary in anticipation that they will either weaken or encounter difficulties in operations. So typically, this policy is employed in conjunction with either Samdhi or Vigraha, depending upon the specific situations. So this is a strategic approach that can be adopted with the objective of augmenting power and then formulating your strategy to gain strategic autonomy. Now, moving on to Samsarya, it is a strategic approach that is adopted by state with the objective of augmenting maneuverability and strengthening the position by seeking shelter with more influential states. So the ultimate aim of this policy is to you want to empower yourself to become more independent and stronger by using that time frame window and by making a strategic use of that alliance which will help in your favor. The policy of moving on to the last policy of Dvaidi Bhava, which is your dual policy. So dual policy basically suggests playing one against another. So this is not a novel concept. So this refers to a situation where you are at war with one and concurrently at peace with another. Now, it is said that the Vijagishu can manipulate other monarchs as he pleases, as long as he's using these 6 stratagems. So this is what Kautilya suggests. So he uses these 6 stratagems appropriately as they're essentially bound to him by his intellectual powers. So the concept of hybrid warfare is closely linked to this matter, as these gunas signify your military as well as non-military methods, which can be applied simultaneously to achieve the desired outcome. Moving on to the 4 upayas, which is your Sama, Dana, Danda, and Bheda. He writes, and I quote, Raja Rankita Maveshu Santam Prayuktam Dosha Prayogam Nirvatayati. So this is your Sama. Dushyamateshu Dana, Sanghateshu Bheda, and Shaktimatsu Dandayati. So this is your Danda. And these 4, Radhakrishnan Pillai in his book mentions that the permutation and the combination of these 4 upayas can make or break the kingdom. So the 4-fold strategy involving Sama, Dana, Danda, and Bheda emphasize the value of all-encompassing and flexible approach to combat and can be seen as precursors to the diverse tools and tactics that are used in hybrid warfare. Now, firstly, Sama is your conciliation or diplomacy. Now, this can be seen as persuasion through clever diplomatic tactics. Now, this may involve making false promises or forging strategic alliances to gain leverage and suggesting use of deceptive negotiation in broader context. Moving on to Dana. Dana has become common in strategy has become a common strategy in modern conflicts, where it can manifest in different forms, such as your covert financial operations, supporting proxies with financial aid, or offering financial inducement, or threatening with any economic pressure. This can fall in the ambit of dana, and this approach can also be associated with your modern tactics like debt trap diplomacy and economic warfare, because the ultimate aim is to gain strategic or economic advantage over your adversary. Now, moving on to danda. Danda is use of force. So danda seeks to apply pressure on your enemies by exploiting their weaknesses, or by using a combination of military force or your punitive measures, and giving the threat of punishment. So this can be aligned with the modern concept of deterrence, in the sense that it discourages the enemy from any kind of performing any kind of aggression. Now, moving on to the last upaya, which is your bheda. Bheda refers to creating divisions or discord within an enemy but to weaken their resolve. According to Kautilya, an enemy that is disunited is easy to conquer. So Bheda tactics can be used during your peacetime also, and even during war, with covert operatives working to exacerbate existing social divisions, or manipulating the internal factions. Now, this can be through the lens of modern conflict. This can be seen as your proxy warfare or your psychological warfare, all with the aim to achieve strategic objective without direct military confrontation. Now, moving on to the case study, I took the case study of Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. In the case of Crimea, Russia employed a multifaceted approach which capitalized on a combination of military, political, your informational tactics, all to orchestrate the annexation, while partially minimizing open warfare intervention. So this again, this case study is usually taken or referred to in all the literature that you will find in hybrid warfare. For example, um, the one of the strategies used by Russia was deployment of little green men. So they utilized unidentifiable military operatives, which were infamously referred to as little green men. And by disavowing any association with the Russian military, Russia was able to generate ambiguity and uncertainty in the battle. Now, this has a stark resemblance to Guda Yuddha, which is a secret warfare, and also Dvaiti Bhava, which is playing one against another, because because they were denying that they were affiliated with the Russian troops. And the next one of the policies that they used was exploiting ethnic and historical tensions. So they strategically utilized historical and ethnic makeup of Crimea, where a sizable portion of the populace was identified as Russian. So pro-Russian sentiment was intensified through propaganda disseminated via state-controlled media and local allies. Now, the entire storyline depicts the intervention as a release from an antagonistic Ukrainian administration, which effectively influenced the public sentiment in support of the annexation. Now, this might have a stark resemblance to Kuta Yuddha, which is your deceptive or your silent warfare, which undertakes all the activities in secrecy to destroy the enemy, and Bheda because they exploited the existing social tensions to create discord. Um, Next, one of the tactics that they used was of coercive diplomacy and economic pressure. Now, they exerted intense diplomatic pressure on Ukraine by threatening military escalation. But all while undermining the legitimacy of the newly formed government in the Ukraine. They also used economic pressure where Ukraine heavily relied on Russia's control of Crimea's energy supplies, and this eroded their stance and ability to resist Russia. So, this economic pressure was amplified by Russia over a significant portion of Ukraine's energy infrastructure, and particularly the natural gas pipelines transiting through Crimea. So the Russia's economic control over Ukraine, specifically in industry, was an effective tool for coercion. Now, by threatening to disrupt these gas supplies to Ukraine as well as Europe, this also acted as a strong deterrent to any possible Western or European military intervention. So, this reliance on Russian sources limited Ukraine's response capabilities and placed pressure on the country to comply with Russia's demands. Now, this goes with your Mantra Yuddha, where they used shrewd diplomatic tactics, and this can also be seen as Dana. In the second column, I mentioned it, where they used economic coercion, like threatening to cut off energy supply or manipulate prices to gain economic autonomy as well as strategic autonomy over the enemy. And this can also be seen as your global vision, because your ultimate aim is to economically weaken the enemy and to conquer the territory. One of the strategies that Russia used was they orchestrated a referendum. So, in an attempt to legitimize their annexation of Crimea, they hastily arranged a referendum amidst allegation of irregularities. So, compounding the situation, a Russian military presence also loomed over all these proceedings, all while a substantial conventional military force was mobilized within Crimea by Russia to dissuade any attempt at Ukrainian intervention. Now, this goes with your Yana, which is marching on an expedition to on the strategic movement of force to intimidate or control the enemy, and Vigraha also, because they threatened the Ukraine with direct military escalation if their demands were not met. So to conclude, I think Arthsastra provides one timeless grand strategy to tackle this multi-dimensional threat of hybrid warfare. And the case study of annexation of Crimea serves as a potent illustration that it is possible to compare the tenets of Arthashastra and hybrid warfare. Despite being an ancient treatise, the Arthashastra's postulates on war continue to be extremely relevant, and it resonates with the concept of use of all the elements available at the disposal of a nations in hybrid warfare to achieve the end goal. So for this research study, I used the following sources. The two papers and one paper and the book by Frank Hoffman on hybrid warfare. I refer to De Benedictis for understanding the case study of Crimea. And for Arthashastra, I extensively relied on R.P. Kangre. He has 3 volumes. The first one is the Sanskrit version. The second is the literate English translation. And the third one is his commentary. And for Arthashastra, I also referred to Radhakrishnan Pillai's book on Chanakya and Art of War, and Roger Boyce's excellent scholarly paper on he has analyzed all the dimensions in Arthashastra, which is your war, statecraft, and other policies. And he's related all those aspects to war and other military strategies. So, yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Avani, for presenting a very enlightening paper on the contemporary relevance of Kautilya's Arthashastra and hybrid warfare. I believe that with 2 formidable enemies in the India's north, it's very important that we research on such topics, especially the points such as gunas and upayas that you pointed out, specifying on deception, which one of our enemies are very well using. I think going back in history and taking the knowledge from there and using it in using to enhance our military is very much important. Thank you so much, Avani. Now let me call upon Arsheeta Datta Barwa to present a paper.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be sharing the screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible, Arsheeta.
Good evening, everyone. Today I'll be discussing a significant rising topic in the field of international relations, influence of soft power in shaping diplomacy and foreign policy. This presentation will be covered in several parts. The first will be the objective of the research article, followed by methodology, the need for the study, the major findings, and the literature review. The primary objectives of the research article aims to analyze the role of cultural diplomacy in enhancing a nation's soft power and its impact on bilateral and multilateral relations, to explore the influence of non-state actors and civil societies in the projection of soft power and its effect on foreign policy, to examine different connotations related to soft power, such as cultural diplomacy and its impact on public diplomacy, and lastly, to assess the wide-ranging regional and non-popularized narratives and states' initiation on soft power advancement and its influence on foreign policies. These objectives were addressed focusing on certain research questions which helped in contextualizing the arguments about the context and the scope of soft power's influence on the state's diplomacy and foreign policy. The first research question being, how is cultural diplomacy related to soft power? Does regional historical narratives and legacies affect the country's diplomatic position? To what extent does a country's soft power get influenced by non-governmental entities, or we can say non-state actors, and how does it affect the country's diplomatic position? The last being, how does the country's soft power promote the objectives of the foreign policy? The research article resorts to a qualitative methodology focusing on case studies of nations renowned for their effective use of soft power. I have collected secondary data from academic papers, government publications, and policy documents. The data was analyzed thematically to draw insights into the application and impact of soft power across different contexts. The case study and selection was done on the basis of the proven track record in leveraging soft power, such as India, the US, Turkey, and China. These nations were selected for their unique approaches to cultural diplomacy and their successful influence in the international affairs. The research design involved an in-depth analysis of the selected case studies, emphasizing the strategies employed and their outcomes. Data collection was gathered with an extensive data from the reputable sources, ensuring a comprehensive understanding of each nation's soft power dynamics. A thematic analysis was conducted to identify the common patterns and the unique strategies in application of soft power for all the different nations. Every research requires a specific need to go through the further studies, due to which I have listed 5 different basic needs to focus on this topic. The first one being the theoretical significance. This research expands analytical framework for understanding non-coercive influence, that is the soft power in international relations, basically focusing on how it influences diplomatic position and the foreign policies. It provides insight into mechanism through which soft power operates and affects the global politics. Second, practical relevance in modern diplomacy. The study underscores the importance of public diplomacy and how a nation can achieve global influence without resorting to conflict or to hard power. It highlights strategies for crisis management through cultural and ideological appeal. The third being policy formulation and implementation. The findings can inform policymakers in crafting comprehensive strategies to promote national interests and foster international cooperation based on the historical evidence and analysis of the same on soft power influence in international relations and global politics. Cultural and ideological impact. The research emphasizes the role of cultural exchange programs and ideological appeal in strengthening a nation's soft power. The last being globalization and information age. It basically addresses the impact of media and information in shaping transnational issues and enhancing soft power. Now, coming to the major findings of the research article. The research article presents several major findings related to the research questions for the same. The first segment of the findings deals with the cultural diplomacy and its equation with the term soft power. Shift from bipolarity to multipolarity. Now, as the global political landscape transitioned from bipolarity to multipolarity structure, cultural diplomacy has gained increased significance, and nations are now more focused on cultural, religious, and ethnic aspects to define and project their national identity and the objectives of their foreign policy. Emerging Asian powers. Now, Asian countries recognize the value of culture in shaping global public opinion and forming alliances. They provide alternative economic and political models to the West and use culture to bolster their international presence and influence. Blurring of cultural diplomacy and soft power, it basically deals with the concept of cultural diplomacy, often blends into the theoretical framework of soft power. The lack of precise definition of cultural diplomacy complicates its distinct identity, but its importance is acknowledged and constructing international power dynamics. Global cultural policies. The relevance of global cultural policies has increased due to social, economic, and geopolitical changes, as well as financial and technological globalization. These policies emphasizes the creation and consumption of culture in post-industrial societies and have diversified culture on international scale. Local and subnational involvement. There has been a trend towards the entrepreneurial and local public culture management. Globalization has basically led to multi-layered diplomacy involving subnational and local administration, significantly impacting cultural diplomacy. Public diplomacy evolution. The term public diplomacy was coined in 1965 to avoid the negative connotations of the propaganda. It evolved from strategies used in World War I and II and the Cold War, focusing on establishing rapport between the governments and foreign citizens through various communicative actions. Ambiguity and integration in public diplomacy. Cultural diplomacy is often subsumed under public diplomacy, and it is used as a primary subfield. Both are linked by the concept of soft power. However, there is no consensus on the objectives and methods of the same. Coming to the last point, cultural reach and influence. Culture has potential to reach a vast audience due to its impact and making it an effective medium for public diplomacy. The division between high and popular culture is diminishing, with the cultural institutions expanding their audience and employing innovative techniques. The article also provides certain examples based on the relationship between cultural diplomacy and soft power, out of which one is the British Museum's international exhibitions and their library's digital presence, which gives us the essence of what basically goes in the British culture. Second comes the Thailand's use of its cuisine to promote cultural tourism. The third and the most important, India's use of democratic tradition and the very infamous example of Bollywood as a soft power tool. India's pluralistic character and cultural diversity have contributed to its democratic stability and international influence. However, domestic identity conflicts remain a sensitive issue despite the country's engagement in multilateral institutions and promotion of unity in diversity. The second set of findings are based on the regional historical narratives and legacies influencing the diplomatic position of a nation. The first being cultural diplomacy and shared historical experience. Now, governments can utilize regional history to foster a sense of community and understanding through cultural diplomacy. Sharing historical experiences, particularly those involving artistic and architectural influences from common empires, can emphasize shared ancestry and positively impact international relations. Challenges of regional narratives. Historical narratives can also be divisive. Conflicts, colonization, and political rivalries, such as those between Japan and its neighboring countries during World War II, can create tensions that impact cultural diplomacy. Thus, navigating contentious narratives carefully is crucial for effective cultural diplomacy. India's rich cultural legacy. I have given a case study on this topic based on India's rich cultural legacy, which basically includes India's ancient and diverse cultural heritage, which has significantly influenced its diplomatic position in foreign policy. Indian literature, particularly the epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata, plays a crucial role in projecting India's soft power and cultural diplomacy, especially in Southeast Asia. Historical diplomacy practices. The article highlights India's long history of diplomatic engagement, tracing back to the Vedic era. Rituals like Ashwamedha, which is basically horse sacrifice, symbolize political power and territorial control. Ancient texts such as Arthsastra by Chanakya detail sophisticated diplomatic strategies that are still relevant today, including Sam, Dam, Danda, and Bheda. Influence of Indian culture in abroad. India's cultural practices and religious philosophies have had a profound impact beyond its borders, contributing to the Indianization of various regions in Asia. This influence is evident in the spread of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and other cultural practices in Southeast Asia. Medieval and early model democracy. During the medieval period, Indian states maintained a proper diplomatic ties with the regions in Central Asia, Persia, China, and the Arab world. The Chola Empire, for instance, established a strong naval and diplomatic relation with the Southeast Asia and China. The Mughal Empire's cultural diplomacy, exemplified in Akbar's Sulh-i-Kul policy and his marriage to a Hindu princess, promoted religious and cultural tolerance in the Indian subcontinent. Modern day implications on historical diplomacy. The article underscores the importance of Indian historical narratives in its modern and foreign policy. The legacy of India's cultural and diplomatic history continues to shape its interactions on the global stage, emphasizing the country's traditional values, political climate, and sense of self. Now, coming to the impact of non-state actors on soft power and diplomatic position. The first finding was the rise of non-state actors. Now, there has been a substantial increase in the number of NGOs, which we say is non-governmental organization, facilitated by the information revolution. NGOs have grown from around 6,000 to 26,000 in the year 1990s alone, and this number includes only formal organization. The soft power related to the NGOs. The NGOs operate as a global conscience, influencing both public perceptions and government policies. Despite often lacking significant material power, NGOs like Greenpeace and Human Rights Watch leverage their soft power to create new norms and pressure governments and businesses. Media influence and public perception. The increasing visibility of NGOs in mainstream media underscores their growing importance. High-profile NGOs successfully attract media attention, which enhances their soft power. For instance, Human Rights Watch report to the US government received widespread media coverage, highlighting the significance of the influence of the organization. The next being impact of policy and public opinion. Now, NGOs have played a crucial role in shaping international policies and the public domain. Notable examples include the successful campaign against the Multilateral Agreement on Investment and the disruption of the World Trade Organization Summit in 1999. There are certain challenges to the credibility. While some NGOs are highly trusted, others are not. Polls indicate mixed trust levels, with 42% of Europeans trusting NGOs, while 36% of them distrusting it due to the popularized Western culture. This variability in turn impacts their influence on public opinion and the policies. Global political coalitions. NGOs often form global coalitions to tackle issues, exemplified by the coalition to ban landmines, which included NGOs and politicians from multiple countries. These basically focuses on the environmental impact of certain industrial techniques. Now, coming to corporate responses and accountability, NGOs often hold corporations accountable for their practices. Campaigns that threaten to corporate reputations can lead to significant changes in corporate behavior, leading to influencing the final bilateral and multilateral policies in the foreign policy of a nation. One such example is the Shell's decision to dismantle the Brent Spar rig on land following the Greenpeace campaign. Religious movement and soft power. Now, organized religious movements have also wielded soft power historically. The Roman Catholic Church, the Protestant, Islamic, and Buddhist organizations have influenced millions through attraction rather than coercion. Intergovernmental institutions such as UN possess a soft power due to their legal framework and universal appeal. However, their reputation can be influenced by political events such as the US-led invasion of Iraq, which affected perceptions of the United Nations relevance. Negative use of soft power. Now, extremist groups also utilize soft power to extract followers, as seen by the influence of the radical Islamist ideology. Now, this highlights the dual-edged nature of soft power, which can be used for both positive and negative connotations. Promoting moderation and dialogue. To counter extremist influence, it is important to support moderate voices within certain radical ideology. The last set of findings focuses on soft power's influence on foreign policy objectives. On this topic, I have covered up the topic of two case studies, one of which is the Turkish International Cooperation and Development Agency, and the other one is the use of environmental policy as a soft power by China. Now, the first point here is evolution and diversification of foreign policy instrument. The article basically recognizes the diversification of foreign policy instruments beyond traditional hard power, such as military action, to include a variety of soft power tools like diplomatic efforts, developmental aid, and environmental policies. These broadens the scope of policy possibilities and highlights the importance of understanding and researching these tools. Now, coming to the case study of Turkish foreign policy and TICA, which is Turkish International Cooperation and Development Agency. Now, Turkey has significantly reformed its foreign policy using developmental agency as a primary vehicle for soft power. Now, founded in 1992 and expanded since 2004, TICA's activities have grown in volume and geographic reach. It has been impacting areas such as Balkan region, the Central Asia, the Africa, and the Middle East. TICA's operation aligned with Turkey's broader foreign policy objectives, such as promoting economic cooperation, stability, and public diplomacy. This approach is basically influenced by the AKP government's strategic vision, led by the figures Ahmet Davutoglu, who emphasized Turkey's historical and geographical depth in shaping its foreign policy objectives. Now, TICA's developmental aid has become a crucial element for Turkey's public diplomacy, enhancing its international profile and its influence in the nearby region. The agency's activities have been guided by strategic principles aimed at increasing Turkey's soft power in ODA recipient countries. Now, coming to the next case study, which is China's environmental foreign policy as soft power. China has shifted from peripheral role in global climate negotiations to a proactive leader, aligning its domestic environmental efforts with its international commitments. This shift includes substantial investments in renewable energy, effective air pollution control programs, and significant reductions in energy and carbon intensity. China's engagement in global environmental diplomacy has boosted its international image and soft power by committing to international agreements like the Kyoto Protocol and supporting initiatives under the UNFCCC, which is United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change. China has positioned itself as a responsible global actor, enhancing its prestige and influence in the region. Now, very clear comparative analysis was done between both the case studies. The article contrasts the soft power strategies of Turkey and China with those of traditional Western powers. Turkey uses historical and cultural connections to extend its influence, while China leverages environmental diplomacy to enhance its global standing. Both strategies reflect how emerging powers can adapt and utilize soft power to achieve their foreign policy goals. The implication for global influence. These case studies basically demonstrate the dynamic nature of global influence and the adaptability of soft power strategies by these emerging powers. It also talks about the significance of soft power in contemporary international relations, highlighting the need for further research and understanding of the non-traditional instruments of foreign policy. Lastly, the literature which I have followed. The research articles deal with several academic papers in renowned literature of famous authors, some of which are listed below. The first being Bound to Lead, The Changing Nature of American Power by Joseph Nye, 1990. Joseph Nye's 2004 work, Soft Power, The Means Success in World Politics, and 2011 work, The Future of Power, basically gave me the framework to work around soft power, its influence on foreign policy, and how non-state actors influence the diplomatic position and the foreign policy objectives. Fourthly, we have Cultural Diplomacy. It was written by Kristen Bound, Rachel Briggs, John Holden, and Samuel Jones. This literature gave me a framework to work on how the connotations of cultural diplomacy is subsumed under soft power and how public diplomacy has been subsumed under cultural diplomacy and how it can be distinguished. Next being J.P. Singh. He has written a book on international cultural policies and power. It's basically a research article, a journal paper, which focuses on how non-state actors and international cultural policies are affecting the influence of soft power in the global politics. The last being P. IPEC. He has written a extensive research paper on the ideas and change in foreign policy and instruments, soft power in the case of Turkish International Cooperation and Development, which gave me the framework to work under the case study of Turkey's foreign policy. So that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Arshita, for presenting a paper on the influence of soft power in foreign policies. You pointed about how nations use soft power in their foreign policies, how NGOs use them, how transnational actors use them. You even pointed about the how negatively soft power is used, especially on another point when it comes to India with a very rich cultural heritage. You pointed out how Cholas and the Mughals have used the soft power, and how Bollywood is a major part of India's soft power. India, which is now aiming to, which has the objective of becoming the Vishwa Guru, soft power becomes a very important aspect in India's foreign policy. Thank you, Arshita, again. Now, let me welcome Ashmita Mitra to present her paper.
Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
I'll be presenting. Is it visible? I'll be talking about, good evening, everyone. My name is Ashmita Mitra. Today, my topic is examining the electoral dynamics, a comparative analysis of national party performance in the past Indian general election. So my research paper has taken up two national parties, which is the BJP and INC, which stands for Bharatiya Janata Party, and Indian National Congress. I have also taken the three general elections originating from 2009, 2014, and 2019. Now, coming to the methodology and objective of my paper. Now, the objective of this research is to compare the electoral performances of India's major national parties, BJP and INC, over the past three general elections, 2009, 2014, 2019. The methodology employed in this paper below the methodology mode employed in this paper is the primary data, secondary data, and data analysis. So just to confirm, is my visible?
Yes, it's visible, Ashmita.
Okay, so the methodology employed in primary data, I have taken the Election Commission of India, India Votes Database, and Political Manifesto to compare the political parties of BJP and INC. The Election Commission of India is the official election result, which provided the comprehensive data on the vote share and skill distribution, which enabled me to go forward with this research. And secondary data, in the secondary data analysis, I have taken the newspapers, articles, scholarly articles in books, government reports, and media reports, followed by the data analysis, which I have employed, temporal analysis of vote share and skill distribution. A temporal analysis, which means looking at the data and events across different time measures, such as years. In my case, I have taken 3 different years. In the data analysis approach, I have also done a comparative analysis of political manifestos, and to further analyze more about the comparison of the electoral performances, I have also taken into factor of the regional variation and the influence of civil society organization. Regional variation analysis involved the segregation of electoral data by the state to examine party performances, pattern, and deviation in different regions, considering historical affiliation, cultural identity, and socioeconomic conditions. I also analyzed the role of the civil service society in shaping the electoral outcomes. The research questions this question paper address is that what is a national party? How has the overall vote share of major national parties changed in the last 3 general elections? And what trends are evident in the number of seats secured? How does the electoral performance of Bharatiya Janata Party compare with that of the Indian National Congress across the last 3 general elections? And are there discernible patterns in the vote share and seat distribution between these 2 major national parties? And the last question addresses to what extent do regional variations impact the electoral performance of major national parties, and have there been emerging trends in the performance influenced by civil society organizations? Now, the major findings of this includes, I first started the paper about what is a national party. So the basic definition of a national party is that it has to fulfill certain criteria, such as that it has to be recognized in 4 states, so it has to secure at least 6% of the total votes in at least 4 states in Lok Sabha or Assembly election, or with at least 2% of the total seats in the Lok Sabha for at least 3 states. Now, the historical evolution of national parties can be traced back to the inception of the Indian National Congress in 1885, where I've also talked about the Representation of People's Act 1951, which is basically enshrined in the Articles 324 to 329 of Part 15 of the Indian Constitution, which constitutes the bedrock of India's electoral framework. Now, the Representation of People's Act addresses the crucial aspects of electoral process as evidenced by the table given below, where it originated from 1951, and there were certain key provisions and changes. The Representation of People Act talks about the seat allocation in Lok Sabha, Legislative Assembly, voter qualification, delimitation of constituencies, preparation of electoral roll. Over the years, the Representation of People Act has gone through amendments, where they have abolished election tribunals. They've addressed issues like vote capturing electronic voting machines. They have also introduced the right to information for voters, extended the voting rights to non-resident Indians, and they have also made an amendment where individuals in police custody or jail will not use the elector status as long as the name is on electoral roll. They have also altered the definition of disqualified, specifying conviction for specified offences as only grounds. And the last amendment which has happened was in year 2017, where they have introduced proxy voting and ensured gender neutrality in certain provisions of the Act. The second finding is about the electoral performance of BJP and INC. In this, while doing the analysis, it has been noticed that over the past three general elections, which is 2009, 2014, and 2019, we can see that the BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, has experienced a consistent rise in their vote share and seat distribution, consolidating its power as a major national force. Whereas the Indian National Congress, despite modest recoveries in the vote share, the INC has faced difficulty in making substantial gains in terms of seats. This table is the evidence of how the Bharatiya Janata Party has been rising in power over the years as compared to Indian National Congress. The next major finding is the impact of regional variation. The impact of regional variations, it's comparative analysis and manifesto commitment. Now, in the comparative analysis and manifesto commitments, I have taken three parameters, which is health, employment, and national security. It has been taken as a sampling model to evaluate key areas that significantly impact civil society. Key comparison of how these major national parties have approached these key issues over time and how they have influenced the electoral performance. This paper covers it, and upon the comparative analysis of both the manifesto of BJP and INC, it was found that BJP's manifesto are seen as more credible and practical due to successful implementation of initiatives like Ayushman Bharat, Make in India, which has been mentioned in my paper. While the Indian National Congress, although they share the same objective, their manifestos often lack clarity and evidence of practical implementation, raising questions about the feasibility of their commitment. So going forward, the next major finding is the impact of regional variation. Now, as we know that India's electoral landscape is profoundly diverse, with regional variation significantly influencing national parties. We have different factors like language, culture, socioeconomic condition, which are crucial factors which influence the performance of the vote share and seat distribution of the national party. Now, for the party of Bharatiya Janata Party, it has been noticed that they emphasize a unified national narrative, but has varied success across regions, influenced by localized issues and leadership dynamics. Like, for example, during the 2009 election, the Bharatiya Janata Party capitalized on regional settlements in Uttar Pradesh. They aligned themselves with the local concerns, such as addressing the Ram Mandir agenda, whereas the Indian National Congress has built strong ties and in the Andhra Pradesh, leveraging strategic alliances with regional parties. The 2014 election, the Bharatiya Janata Party in Gujarat emphasizes on the Gujarat model of development under Narendra Modi, whereas the Indian National Congress was very popular in Assam as it focused more on the immigration issue and regional autonomy. And the last year, which is 2019 elections, the Bharatiya Janata Party in Maharashtra gained success through regional alliances with Shiv Sena and addressed local issues, whereas INC was gained success in Karnataka and they gained popularity through effective alliance building and addressing state-specific concerns. So we can see that regional variation are dynamic forces shaping India's electoral landscape, requiring national parties to adapt their strategies to local context. And the last major finding was about the role of civil society organization. Civil society organization mostly includes NGOs, advocacy groups, and grassroots movements, which are becoming increasingly influential in India's political outcomes. Now, there are certain CSOs which align themselves with specific political ideology or parties to operate independently, or they operate independently to influence public opinion and advocate for policy change. These civil society organizations, they play a crucial role by championing local causes, impacting voter sentiments, and influencing electoral outcomes because they are mostly in touch with the ground reality, and there are certain critical issues which may be overlooked by the political parties. For example, there is a thing called issue-based voting, where certain civil society organizations take up a certain issue and try to bring focus on that particular issue, where it shapes the public opinion around specific social environment or governance issues. And we come to the recommendations from my research paper. Upon all of this analysis, have found certain recommendations whereby it suggests that the political party should enhance the clarity and feasibility of manifesto commitments, as political manifesto are public declarations of policy intention and plans by party. So having a detailed actionable plan would help build trust and commitment with their voters. They should also tailor their strategy to regional dynamics, as in they can develop region-specific strategies that resonate with local concerns. The political party should also foster engagement with civil society organizations because they have a deep ties with the communities and can highlight critical issues which can be overlooked by the political party. The political party should also continuously monitor social political trends by helping them, which will help them to parties to stay informed about their changing voter preferences and emerging ideas. This can be done via feedback forms or data or advanced data analytics tools. If they are monitoring the social political trends, they will also be able to maintain their relevance in this political environment. Parties must remain flexible and responsive to maintain voters' trust and support. They should be willing to adjust policies and approaches based on the changing circumstances. And with this the references, that the total number of sources I consulted were 19 sources, and which most of them were based on the Election Commission of India, followed by the India Votes, which is the largest election database. And I've also mentioned the Bharatiya Janata Party manifestos of the 3 years from 2004, 2014, 2019, and I've also mentioned in the Congress manifesto, followed by one of the books, one of the research article by Mendrami and Avani, the relationship between political parties and civil society, which gave me the framework to understand how civil society organizations helps in influencing vote trust and shapes the distribution of the political parties. And followed by the one more article by talks about regional parties and the emerging pattern of politics in India, which gave me the idea on how to research more on the regional variation. And then lastly, the representation of the People's Act. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ashmita, for presenting a paper on the comparative analysis of the performance of the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Indian National Congress in the last three general elections. I think that you brought the historical evolution of both the parties. You pointed out the fact that the ideas of unemployment and national security in the manifesto actually impact the voters' behavior. You also pointed out how Ayushman Bharat and Make in India policy by the BJP has given it a mass appeal. And you also pointed out how regional variations and civil society organizations also impact the voters' behavior. Especially with India going to the polling booth in the 2024 general election, your research paper becomes much relevant. Thank you, Ashmita. And now we have a question answer session. Audience, you can ask questions by raising the hands, or you can put the questions in the chat box.
Ashmita, explain the sampling that you did. Why did you select only those 3 categories?
So the sampling model that I chose was BJP and INC. I chose those two political parties because they are very popular and representing in the parliament. And as for why I chose those 3 election years, because it is now the election is ongoing, I decided to take the 3 general election from this year.
Okay. By taking these 3 recent elections, whatever observations, perceptions that you developed, do you feel that they are not only relevant for contemporary times, but the lessons drawn will hold for the future also?
Yes, sir. Whatever observations I have found, they are relevant. And it would definitely, like the recommendation that I proposed in my paper, would definitely help the national parties to take that into consideration for their future election strategy.
Arshita, in your presentation, you talked about the role of NGOs in the soft power dimension. But there is one word which you used, non-state actor. Do NGOs qualify as non-state actors? Arshita?
So usually NGOs collaborate with the state actors. However, when I have mentioned the word impact of non-state actors, I have also mentioned it in my article very clearly that we could, although it is not completely part of non-state actors, however, since we say it's non-governmental and it has, according to its objectives and its vision and mission, usually non-governmental actors are something perform their tasks based on certain socio-political aspects or certain uh, crises which happens in the society, which is why I have mentioned it separate, which is why I have distinguished it from the state actors and mentioned it in the non-state actors.
You have taken 2 case studies? Yeah. So can you just highlight
Yes.
or talk about any, you also mentioned about, like extremist groups and they also influence. Can you think of giving any one example?
So I couldn't get your question.
See, you've taken 2 case studies where one government, that is China, is using environment as a tool for environmental, whatever you want to call, for climate change, batting for climate change, and using it as a tool for enhancing their international status. Fantastic. You also talked about the Turkish agency, which is involved in so many countries, providing a platform for Turkey to expand its, sphere of influence or soft power. But can you give one example of a strictly non-state actor, non-state actor influencing soft power or diplomacy? Can you think of anyone?
So,
They are in your neighborhood. Plenty of them.
So yes, sorry, sir. Sir, we could take maybe examples of some religious organizations.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, for example, Taliban.
yes, sir. So, but
Yeah, they do.
so they do, but then also with the current scenario, sir, we would not exactly put them in the non-state actors. Like, so that's something
They are a non-state actor who have become state.
Yes, sir, exactly.
They have transitioned. But
Yes,
as non-state actors, they did influence diplomacy and foreign policy in the entire South Asian continent, or rather even globally, where America was involved. Correct? Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Avani, we talked about, very good, presentation. You talked about those principles and concepts that Arthsastra explains and their relevance to contemporary times by taking a case study. Very good work. Fine. Do you see any set of those precepts in action in contemporary times, even though it may not refer to Arthsastra? Do you see those concepts in action in our neighborhood?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Even in the book by IDSA, it dedicates an entire chapter on how Pakistan uses hybrid strategies in Afghanistan, and we have an example of China also. How they use this hybrid strategy. They call it unrestricted warfare. The US calls it gray zone warfare. So you can see it everywhere. There is one case study of a non-state entity also, which is by Hezbollah in the Second Lebanon War. So because they lacked in conventional term as compared to the IDF, they used a lot of non-military tactics, which gave them an edge over the IDF. And they were successful in drawing out the IDF from the Lebanon. So there are a lot of such examples regarding the same, this of state entities also and non-state entities also.
All right. Okay, good. Anyone else? Any comment? You may not pose a question. You are welcome to give your comments or observations also. That will be helpful to these three youngsters. Please go ahead. Anyone else?
Okay, I have a few comments in terms of presentation of the.
So, we will, as a mentor perspective, maybe
Yeah, we will come to that later.
yes. Attending to them. Any observations on their thoughts? Any questions which are relevant to their presentation or connected to the presentation? Anyone else? All right.
Sir,
Okay.
Santosh, sir.
Sorry. Yes.
Sir, Santosh, good evening.
Yes, please.
Hi, Avani. Wonderful presentation. Okay, I like the way you had formatted everything, and I like especially the way you used the vernacular way of reading out the Arthsastra and explaining it in detail. It was very nicely done. Okay, so very well done. Just wanted to tell you that excellent presentation.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any comments, observations? Otherwise, Nimi can proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. If there are no further questions, we'll move on with the program. Commander J.K. Nair was supposed to be here to give a short note on the DRaS-Praghna Research Writing Program. Unfortunately, he is not here with us. So I request Dr. Srinivasan sir to give a small note on the DRaS-Praghna Research Writing Program.
Thank you, Nimi. Commander Nair is on his way to Europe, actually. So he must be either in the airport or must have boarded already. So I will take his place. Just to give one small, this thing about this program itself. DRaS, Defense Research and Studies, as we all know, is a think tank which is based in Kochi, founded by Dr. J.K. Nair, Commander Dr. J.K. Nair. Praghna Centre for Research in Coimbatore, me and my better half. Okay. So we both came together some 2.5 years before because we felt that there is a requirement for teaching research methodology, not as a subject, but as a informal instructive, and standard operating procedure, something which you can use to actually conduct your research. Because we were discussing, both Commander Nair and me, we were discussing about the quality of research that we are seeing, being published, and what happens to PhD scholars, and the turmoils of MPhil and PhD fraternity. So that is what motivated us to put this program together. The program has a very simple objective. The simple objective is to make the interns think. As far as the method is concerned, how to go about your research paper, how to select your topic, how to frame your hypothesis and research questions, how to structure your paper, what kind of sources to consult, whatever else is required for a good qualitative output as a research paper, that guidance definitely we do, the mentors in this program. But the interns who are part of this program are expected to work on a topic of their interest. And I'm very sure that all of you would have noticed that each of the interns who presented their paper today has taken a unique approach, simple, straightforward, guided by valid research questions. And output is there in front of you, which you heard in the last 1 hour. So this program is all about this mentoring and guiding emerging scholars, I'll put it that way, because many of our former interns have, they have enrolled for PhDs, they've gone for higher studies in universities abroad, they have enrolled for PhDs here in India, okay, and they're all pursuing their higher studies, duly motivated by the work that they have done, and they keep in touch with us, they keep telling us their progress. And as teachers, we feel very happy that whatever mentoring is being given in this program is actually helping them to evolve. So that's all I would like to say about DRaS and Praghna as two organizations or institutions which have come together. We do look forward to opportunities to mentor more children in the future, and we will be delighted to do so because it gives us an opportunity to grow ourselves, because we are interacting with young minds. They have questions, they throw thoughts at us in the form of their writing or otherwise, okay, which makes us also think. We go back, we read, okay, we comment, okay, so it makes us also grow, and we are very happy, and I would say we are rather obliged to our interns for challenging us intellectually. Yeah, okay, and that's it about the DRaS-Praghna program I would like to say. Okay, thank you. Nimi, you can proceed.
Thank you, sir. It also helps us to grow, and it's a blessing for all of us young students to be part of the DRaS-Praghna program. Thank you, Srinivasan, sir.
God bless.
Now, let me call upon Group Captain Arthsastra, sir, to express his perspective.
All right. Good evening to everybody who is present on today's site for this particular presentations by Avani, Arshita, and Ashmita. Right at the outset, I should say fantastic research works by all three of you. It shows what we have been talking about, what Captain Srinivasan just mentioned about what is the objective of DRaS-Praghna, how we try to mentor young minds into producing papers. And like he mentioned, I'll repeat it. Well, today's presentations by all three have proved that yes, we are achieving what we set forward to do. Great. However, like every time when such activity takes place, we believe that there is scope for improvement in everybody. Okay. So just as small points of improvement, I would like to tell all three of you. Avani, in your presentation, extremely well researched and well conducted. However, I had a few observations regarding the sequence of the slides. What you're talking about and what was being presented was a little invarious. Like in the ideology that you talked about, philosophy, there were certain aspects which you covered first, And the fourth point was what was put in the slide first. Okay, I hope you get what I'm trying to say. So plus you took a little bit more time, almost 23 minutes to cover everything. So I suggest, like, of course we have time, but then when we decide that there is a time limit laid down in different presentations, you'll be timed out with a stopwatch or with a bell. Okay, so though of course we like you to express your ideas in a much more flow, in a clear flow that you are going through. We don't like to interrupt you, but I hope you'll keep that in mind. In Arshita and Asmita's case, both your presentations were also very good, very well researched. However, in Asmita's case, I found a little bit of a mismanagement in your slide presentation. What we suggest normally is that before you give any presentation, you should do a kind of a yes, practice for that, presenting your thing for you to your own self. I think Avni and Asmita did that, but however, Arshita, I think, sort of missed out. That's why she had issues of moving, putting her slides in the presentation format and moving from first slide to third slide or something like that. So that is all from my side. Again, I would like to congratulate all three of you for a fantastic task done. Okay, and I'm very sure you will continue to do well in future also and achieve much more greater heights. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Arthsastra sir. Now let me call upon Commander Dr. Ashok Dua to express his perspective.
Thank you, Nimi. It has been a pleasure being here this morning. Morning for me and evening for you. Listening to three presentations made by Ms. Avani DRaS, Ashmita Datta Barua, and Ms. Ashmita Mitra. At the outset, I would like to congratulate three of you for having made excellent presentations. The presentation shows the depth to which you have gone and also the breadth. It also shows the applicability of these concepts. You are talking of, Avni is talking of Arthsastra and also talking of Russia's strategy in Crimea, how that is relevant. And in day-to-day talks also we make use of Sam, Dham, Bhed, Dand to get to your objective. We haven't forgotten. And these have come down from Chanakya's days. So that shows that these are still relevant. Right? You made an excellent presentation, in fact. You went very systematically introducing the topic. Then what methods did you use? Qualitative research, your secondary data. The sources were excellent as I saw those, because when you use excellent sources, the outcome is always, I would say excellent. And telling you the research questions that you chose were very good. So I would like to say here that you should continue your research, maybe in this direction, because there is a lot of relevance to what Chanakya propagated and what is also being used in the modern warfare. So you have come out with certain recommendations, work on those, and maybe you could proceed further. Thank you so much, Avni. Now I come to Arshita. Arshita, my hearty congratulations to you for having presented your papers so well. Your paper, as I understand from the presentation, was also well researched, well structured. You took relevant research questions to arrive at your findings, and also the case studies that you discussed, the Turkish case study and Chinese case study, and how foreign policy and soft power are interconnected with each other. Very well presented paper, and you came to the appropriate findings to your research questions. So that's the need of the thing, that first you choose your research question, study them, and find answers to those. And best is that you could recommend to the powers that these are also the possibilities that they could perhaps look at. Thank you, Arsheeta, for your excellent presentation. Third is Ashmita. Ashmita talked about, made the comparison between electoral performance of two different national parties. You also took relevant research questions, arrived at major findings, and made excellent recommendations. Listening to you three, I can only say that our younger generation, we are safe in the hands of our younger generation in the coming days. You are doing wonderful job. The idea of being here on this platform is, one is learning. It's not only you scholars learn, it's we also learn from you. Because some of the ideas that you throw up, I probably never thought of that. And that's the way learning takes place. That's the way growing takes place. That's the way we develop each other. And when you start talking with, with research-based inputs, your responses are much, much superior. And you talk to the point, answer the question like you do in the research question, answer it to the point, and give your finding. And give your finding based on certain data. Maybe secondary data, maybe empirical data, but it is a data-based output. And that makes the difference, that you are not talking out of your hat. You're talking something very, very relevant, very, very important, and your words should carry that weight. And that is only possible when you do research. And the idea of this platform is to hone your researching skills, to hone your decision makings, because decision making is very, very vital. When you make your decisions based on the research that you have undertaken, the outcomes are appropriate. So I won't take much of your time, but I would like to say that I'm proud of Avani, Arsheeta, and Ashmita. Before I hand over back to Nimi I would also like to say that Nimi, you conducted the session very well. Proud of you. Continue to work that way. Okay? That displays your confidence. Proud of you. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you, sir.
Srinivasan, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Santosh ji and Partha sir, and all those present here. I'm grateful to you for this opportunity.
Sir, an honor, sir. Thank you, sir. Jain, sir.
Jai Hind, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Ashok sir. I must really acknowledge and appreciate the fact that the pain that you've taken to be part of this event this early morning from the US. It's indeed an inspiration for young scholars like us, seeing you, the energy that you have, that you're using for learning, relearning, and imparting this knowledge. So it's an inspiration for all of us, and you've blessed us with your presence, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Jai Hind, sir.
Jai Hind. Jai Hind.
Now, let me call upon Santosh Chandran, sir, to express his perspective.
Good evening to all the seniors. Good evening to my young students, and thank you, Nimi. Wonderful presentations by all three of you. Excellent researching has been done. In fact, like Group Captain Srinivasan sir said, I mean, lots that we can learn from the way you've gone about so systematically doing everything. And I am very new to the DRaS-Praghna program. I thank my guided mentor, Dr. Srinivasan, to bring me into this forum and this thing. So best wishes to all of you. Excellent work done. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh sir. We have almost come to the end of this webinar presentation. Before leaving, let me call upon Yashodhan to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Nimi. A very good evening to ladies and gentlemen and our esteemed mentors. As we are moving towards the end of today's presentation program, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for being a part of this insightful research presentation event. First and foremost, a big round of applause for the presenters, Ms. Avani, Ms. Arsheeta Barua, and Ms. Ashmita Mitra. Your dedication to your research and clear communication of your findings were truly impressive. A special acknowledgement to our mentors, Group Captain Dr. Srinivasan sir, Commander Dr. Ashok Dua sir, Group Captain Arthsastra sir, Commander J.K. Nair sir, and Santosh Chandran sir for their continuous guidance and support. Sir, your presence has added immense value to the occasion, and we appreciate your engagement and enthusiasm. Thank you for your efforts to provide us interns with an environment that is conducive to celebrate the spirit of discovery and innovation in the realm of research. This event has provided a valuable platform for sharing knowledge and fostering collaboration within the research community. We are confident that the insights gained today will inspire further exploration and innovation. Thank you to everyone once again for your participation and support.
Thank you, Yashodhan. Srinivasan